What's up? How you doing? It's me back again, Analog Attack. Welcome to Record Store Focus 3. Or we should say shop, really, shouldn't we, Chris? Because Chris is
Mm.
here from Leeds. How you doing, Chris?
I'm very good, thank you. It's nice to
Good,
talk to you, mate.
good morning to you.
Yes, this morning. You're
Got
right.
coffee there. So, Chris, Noises for Heroes, your record shop.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about it. How long you been open?
I've just come up to my third year now,
Okay.
and I got a good location in a kind of an old-fashioned street in Leeds, where
Nice.
it's just like little niche businesses, if you like. There's not too
Right.
many streets like that left.
Right.
The rent's affordable, and it's just a little box really. With it's quite a tiny place, but
Yeah.
I kind of Leeds has always had somewhere that has like punk and rock records for sale, and
Right.
that was kind of getting a little bit less. So I thought I'll do that, but I also do other stuff as well. You know, I know you like your jazz and stuff. I
do.
carry things like that.
Cool. So
Yeah,
it's not just punk and metal. You got all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
yeah. It's like 90% second hand as well. It's just
Cool.
what comes through the door, or I get phone. You know, you get a phone call. Sometimes it's a carrier bag full. Sometimes it's a house full. You know.
Yeah. You were talking to me the other day about you went to pick up a punk collection. How did that work out for you? Remember?
I picked up two last weekend. It was kind
Yeah.
of modern stuff. There's kind
Right.
of, there's a couple of Infest albums in one of the boxes, which was great,
Good. Wow. Cool.
but it was all like, it's all bands from like post 2010, which I don't really know, like Bill Bondsman and Rambo and all these. But I mean, these are kind of older now.
Yeah, they
There's
are.
a lot of,
So, Chris, tell us a little bit about your background. So, like, you've been in bands and you've been. How long have you lived in Leeds? You've lived in Leeds all your life, or
20 years now.
20
Yeah, I
years?
did 10 years in London, and
Yeah.
I'm 50 now, so yeah. And I'm from the northeast. I'm from Teesside, and there's
Right.
a bunch of Teesside sort of reprobates who live in Leeds, and we
Yeah.
all just seem to end up here. So
Yeah.
that's cool. It's like the original Afweezer and Pet, but because that was supposed to be set in Middlesbrough. So there you go.
Leeds. So, does Leeds have a sort of good history of punk record stores and punk record shops and record shops in
I think
general?
yeah. I mean, when I was we used to come to the Duchess of York in the 80s,
Ah.
and we'd get here. Yeah, and we'd get here early, me and my friends, and
You've got
go
me
on.
started now. No. That name. just all the gigs that.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
Yeah, I'm too young for sort of Adam and Eve's and Brannigan's and places before that.
Was
But
Adam and Eve's was Leeds too, right?
yeah, and they used to have like 4 gigs a week, but it was all like one-way system and the Exploited and stuff, you know.
I feel like Antisect played there too, right? I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. I think by about 84, 85, it was mostly like anarcho-punk stuff and less your kind of UK82 stuff, you know.
That's like one of the classic venues when you think back, is like you got Planet X in Liverpool and like.
Yeah.
But that just. Thanks for bringing that up, man. That's so good. Yeah. So
Well, the old Duchess was so nice as well. It was kind of like, you had to peel your shoes off the carpet when you were walking through it.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, and they kind of did it up in the 90s, and it became like an indie venue.
Right.
And I'm actually on like this Facebook group, which is like Memories of the Duchess of York. And
really,
the difference between the people from the 90s remember this kind of quite sort of what they think was like rock and roll, like enemy-approved venue.
Yeah.
And obviously in the 80s, it was just like, those people wouldn't even go to that place. Maybe they would. Playing.
Do you have any sort of favourite gigs you went to? Do you remember, like back in the 80s or?
Well, I'm a little bit. The first time we went to Duchess was SNFU on their first ever tour.
Oh, I bet that was. Yeah. I saw them in Bristol at the Tropic Club on that same tour.
Oh yeah, that's a legendary venue as well, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. That was amazing. That great memories of that one.
I'd never seen a band play that energetically, apart from HDQ, who were like local heroes as well.
Yeah.
They kind of. Their singer used to spring off the drum on the bass drum and stuff. And
I think Guy Pig was the king. He was in the air all the time.
So sad he passed away, of course. Yeah. But what an incredible frontman he was then. I mean, they used to get voted like the best live band in Flipside and Maximum Rock and Roll year in, year out. Right. Incredible.
Yeah. Any others? Do you remember? I think did Scream play there around that time as well?
Yeah, I didn't get to go to that.
Right.
I've got a disputed story with an old friend. He says I got lazy and wouldn't go, and the way I remember it is he didn't really know the band and he didn't want to go because it was like a working night and he's the only guy with a car.
Yeah.
But he blamed me and I blame him, so it's gone on forever. This. So,
so what would have been some of the sort of local bands that, because you know at that time that would have played with SNFU or all those sort of gigs, the local bands?
Yeah, I guess it was probably more like the Northeast bands were probably like HDQ, the Instigators,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And you saw bands like Visions of Change and you know, and sort of Exit Condition, bands like that would play, and good bands, you know, great sort of.
Yes.
Certainly with that, but we also, and then you'd see sort of Heresy and Ripcord and those sort of bands, you know, who were fantastic. Yeah. You know.
They always used to play in Bristol and Bath too. Visions of Change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So many times. Yeah.
That's your neck of the woods, isn't it? I can hear it in your accent, of course.
Really? Do I just,
a little bit?
Is there a twinge?
There's a little bit of a twinge.
A little twinge.
I can't do that.
Because I lived in Bournemouth for a long time, and I moved to Bath in about 1987, I think, 86.
No, you went Bath. You went Bath there a little bit. You know?
But it's funny. I think we were seeing a lot of the same gigs, like you know, the SNFU and
I think
such as the York.
Yeah. The big one that we really loved was me and my friends was probably because we missed Government Issue as well. We were kind of like one of the favourite bands. Yeah, I know, it's criminal really. I probably had 2 opportunities to see them and I didn't go. But Verbal Assault was a biggie for us.
Yes.
They were such an amazing live band. Yeah. I saw someone get knocked unconscious at one of their gigs by the bass player just swinging the bass around.
Really?
They just took this guy out as he was going to stage dive. That was pretty mental.
Chris, remember, did they play with like Citizen Fish or Culture Shock on that tour? Because I know they became really close, those 2 bands.
I think they did. I'm sure not the ones I saw them at, but they certainly. I'm sure I remember seeing flyers of them playing together. Yeah,
absolutely. Because Verbal Assault did that Tiny Giant single a bit later, which was very like ska.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of got a chop in the guitar. It's very
yeah. Wow,
you know,
York.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah, and then. If we move up to date a little bit, now you've got the Temple of Boom in Leeds, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
It's an amazing place, really. It's kind of I think we've had it for like over 10 years now, and you know, they have 3 or 4 gigs a week usually. They'll put like a black metal festival on, you know, a non-dodgy black metal festival, and then they'll put like loads of. Then they'll have sort of, I don't know, something funny like Harley Flanagan's Cro-Mags or something. And then they'll have...
Is that funny?
Yeah. You know, they'll have bigger bands on. Agnostic Front played last year. And they're struggling a little bit with the financing right now.
I heard about that.
But Lecky came in the shop last week and he's hoping they're going to be all right. They've got like good fundraising ideas.
Is Lecky the owner of Temple of Boom?
Yeah, I mean, it's a rented place, but it's there was 2 guys doing it. I think they've kind of like, I'm not speaking out of turn here. There's been a little bit of a schism there.
Okay.
So they're kind of managing 2 separate sides of it, which is kind of, these things happen. But, you know, I think Lecky's half is the traditional sort of the punk hardcore side of things anyway. So that's kind of what we want to see survive. And, well, both obviously, but that's important that that's still there, you know. And once it's back next year, I'm sure, you know, fingers crossed, it'll be absolutely fine, you know.
Right. We were talking about Lecky. I was talking about Lecky with Lou from Sick of It All the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got good memories. Yeah, well, I hope they can keep going. So,
yeah. I'm sure they will. I mean, even if they lost that venue, the sort of guys who wouldn't let the grass grow, they'd have somewhere else on the go. But it is a pretty amazing venue. It feels like you're in a European squat, like a really well-run one.
What sort of capacity is it? Quite tiny?
I think they can get a couple of hundred in the main gig room. Yeah, and that's like that feels like you're in like an old, you know, like a punk venue out like Suburbia or something. You know, it's like a proper like graffiti stage and stuff, and it's like the audience are right on the band. The stage it's only like a foot-high stage, so you kind of. That's great. I played a lot of venues where they'd put like barriers up and stuff. It's horrible.
Yeah. That would be amazing to see like Agnostic Front or the Cro-Mags in a place like that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, they've done this Bloodstains Festival every year as well,
Right.
which is fantastic.
Mm.
I've got a 5 one there. There's one. That's Scream. This is all on one gig. Scream, the FUs, MDC, Rattus,
What?
Dr. No, Fang, Stalag 13, Crude SS.
What? When did that happen?
That was 3 years ago.
3 years ago?
Yeah, maybe 4 years ago. And it's Civilized Society playing.
That's incredible. Wow. And I noticed, Chris, I wanted to ask you about Vinyl Tap as well, because that was in Huntsville, right?
Yeah. It's I mean, they've been. I think they actually. He started in Halifax. No, he started in Huddersfield Market as a little stall in about 83, 84, I think.
All right.
Yeah, and he eventually got a shop in Halifax. Then it moved to Huddersfield. No, he moved to Leeds, then to Huddersfield. But it's a huge mail order operation as well. There's actually about 20 people work for Vinyl Tap in the kind of various departments. It's a big operation.
Wow.
Yeah, and they just they just buy everything really from from like huge stock clearances that still seem to sit in warehouses somewhere to sort of individual collections and stuff. But there's a huge online side, and I think the bulk of that staff is just like listing stuff and shipping it out and stuff.
Okay,
so,
all right.
Yeah,
but you work there before you open your own. You work there before you open your own shop, right?
I did. This is my second shop actually. I had a little shop within like a vintage place, and it was I was kind of in the back room. I didn't really have much profile, if you like.
What was that called?
So this is and I kind of worked for Vinyl Tap for about 8 years, I think. And I was just listing records online on eBay and Discogs and stuff for them, cleaning them up and listing them.
What was the name of the other shop that you had before Noises for Heroes?
Oh, well, it was because I was partners with these sort of furniture people who were sort of vintage people. It was called Ambience. So I call my section, I call it Rawhide Records because I had like an old cowboy annual with Rawhide written on it. I thought that was all right,
That's funny. All right,
yeah,
Chris.
it was all
right. Vinyl. This is Analog Attack. Vinyl. Let's have a look at some records, shall we?
Right. Okay. Well, I was kind of. I really like bands that are kind of on the cusp of hardcore, if you like. They tend to be from the early 80s, and they're almost like punk. They're like older guys who were in punk bands who were kind of aware of hardcore.
Right.
And they're kind of lumped in, but they're in a transitional, forgotten period a little bit of some of them. And so I picked up this one.
Wow, I'm interested.
And it's a Boston band.
Okay.
Yeah, people talk about the obvious Boston bands being sort of, SSD and Jerry's Kids and Gangrene and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is an absolutely great record. I don't know if it's Stranglehold. I don't know if you know this one.
I've heard the name, never seen that record.
Yeah, I think there's only like 1,000 copies. It's not like a super expensive one, but you try and find one is the other question, isn't it? You know what I mean? And these guys were kind of, I think they were probably a little bit older than some of the kids who were in these hardcore bands.
Right.
Kind of more just straight melodic punk, really, with a bit of bite to it.
Yeah.
And it's just fantastic. They did 2 great singles as well. I think they'd be a bit, if you're just in a hardcore, you find them a bit lackluster, to be honest.
What label's that on? What label's that on?
It's on a One Step Ahead, I think. Yeah, well, One Step Records, it says. So I'm not even sure there was any other releases other than Stranglehold Records on that label. You know what I mean? But actually, it's a cool.
It sounds right up my alley, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you like your punk rock, do you, Mike? And the kind of traditional, early stuff.
It's hard, like melodic punk. That's not really hardcore.
Yeah, I'd say like a comparative would be like a band like Kraus or something.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, and it sounds a little bit, considering it's an East Coast record, it sounds a bit West Coast. It could be like a Posh Boy or something, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Now, these guys, two of them ended up in this band, which is this is one of the most unheralded records on Tang Records, right? And it's basically Stranglehold, almost under a different name.
Yeah.
And it's the do you ever the Oysters, Green Eggs and Ham album?
I think I've definitely owned that on tape. Someone's definitely given me a tape of that, but I don't remember much about it. But
maybe it's a bit more memorable to me than it is to other people.
Yeah, that's cool though, man.
I love this record. It's kind of, they're very like the Replacements at this point.
All right.
You know,
Wow.
it's kind of fast. It sounds like they're drunk, but they're two good musicians to let that show. You know what I mean? They're kind of really good. And in fact, they kind of look sort of pretty messy after a gig on that photograph.
Wow.
And you know, there's no leather jackets or spiked hair. They're just kind of like guys, you know. I quite like that. Very unassuming. It's like Naked Raygun or something. They don't look like punks.
Did you see Naked Raygun when they came to England those couple of times?
No. That's another. Was it my fault or someone else's fault story? Probably not.
That's cool though, to see records that don't get shown off, and I like that. You know, like just not the usual.
Yeah, I thought I'd pick some. You know, it's kind of not trying to be sort of like obscure or anything. No. I just thought, I wonder if I've got a few things that can kind of like that you don't hear about so often.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah.
I think in about 1995 to 2000, I kind of made it my mission to try and buy. And I'm possibly like you. I'm much more of an LP guy than a 7-inch collector.
Me too, especially recently. Yeah.
Oh, well, the prices. What can we do? You know what I mean?
I've kind of had to make a few rules, you know, and yeah. So
if I see like a 7-inch and it's kind of like it's out, I'll say I'm at a record fair, and you know, you don't see too many old like worldwide hardcore records at record fairs in the UK, but sometimes you see something. And if the price is fair and I've had a good day and I've got some money in my pocket, I might.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always had a problem with putting down, you know, kind of money for a single. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. You've got to make the rules. You know? You've got to like.
I did have some like quite a few like nice American things, but I've sold. I kind of, it haunts me a bit. I've sold so many things over the years.
Me too.
I guess what? Yeah. You know, and what you're left with is kind of okay. But okay, do you want me to?
Come on, bring it on. Bring it on.
Okay. Well, this is kind of like okay. We're in DC now, so
all right.
I think these are my favorite DC straight up punk band. That's for sure. You probably that's
yes,
Black Market Baby.
That's
a good just one. Amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing band.
I think one of those bands that does get overlooked in favor of the Discord stuff and everything. They get overlooked a little bit, perhaps.
I think so. I've read the like the books, the DC books, and they sort of talk about these guys like they were almost like greasers, really. They were kind of like almost like older guys in the scene who were a bit because they're from Baltimore as well, which is kind of
all right.
You know, you kind of think of John Waters films with Baltimore anyway, like
or Tony Pence.
Yes. All right. Okay. Yeah. And I think it's a bit more blue collar. It's a little bit more sort of rough and ready. And these guys were like, they look like they could have been in like extras from The Wanderers or something. You know, they're not like little teenagers. But I think all those young guys like Uri Mackay and Rollins and people would go and see these guys and perhaps the Bad Brains and just be like blown away.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
And, I'm fortunate to have I think Bitscore Records in Germany did us all a massive favour, didn't they?
They did.
Stuff.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You could pick up this or Articles of Faith or something.
Yeah, wow. And like Straw Dogs. Now that was Lost and Found, but the Bitscore.
Yeah, Lost and Found for all their faults. You know,
they did do some non-bootleg stuff, I guess, but Bitscore was definitely a good label for sure. Yeah.
And this is obviously this is the kind of the original sort of
beautiful
Black Market Baby album, which is kind of, my friend had a sealed copy, which I've opened. I'm not into if it's my copy, it's my copy, it's going to get played.
Made to be played, Chris, made to be played, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's just fantastic to get like the original. Again, another of those bands that did sevens. I don't have any of their sevens, but this will do for me. It's absolutely marvelous. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
But and I think one of their guitarists ended up in a band called Jackpot in the 90s. It's like JKK Pot. I think it's Keith. What's he called? Keith Campbell, who's a brilliant guitar player.
Right.
I really like his playing in Black Market Baby because I play guitar, so I kind of like I have a few guitars. you sort of follow, you know what I mean? Like John Hegarty or someone like that from Eggboy and Reagan. They're just amazing.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw, my mate drove Jackpot on tour, and he said, "Oh, there's a guy in an old American band," and I looked at the CD cover, and I was, "Oh my God, that's dude from Black Market Baby," you know what I mean? So
wow.
that was cool. It's like, you know, that he's still playing and stuff. So that's I know they did some reunions and stuff. So I don't think they'll ever make it to the UK though, which is a shame.
Right. Yeah, so when I see these records that's sort of going on the list, it's another one that I'm missing.
Well, I watched your Japanese metal one program, which was fascinating, and I've put a couple of those metal out because as I get older, it's funny. I was never a metal kid, you see. I was into like two-tone and then straight into punk, and I remember going to a friend's house and listening to Rainbow, and I thought it was all right.
Yeah, because I was the other way. I went from like heavy metal to like crass.
Yeah,
but I never really strayed away from heavy metal.
Heavy crap.
Yeah. It's like I've always been able to kind of juggle both of them, so I can listen to Rainbow and crass both. You know, like.
Well, I'm finding a new area to collect, which is exciting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I pick up things at car boot sales and I find like like old records on Ebony Records, like Grim Reaper and stuff. Fantastic.
That's kind of like, well, people, it's a second or third tier. I love that label. Yeah. Like it's real like meat and potatoes, pretty bad production. It's great.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like the No Future of sort of heavy metal.
Yeah, I've mentioned that label once before, and great label. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
You ready for another one?
I'm ready. I'm always ready.
This is a tough choice, but it's kind of. I think for me, this is my favourite Canadian band.
Oh.
I know there's a few people. It's hard to beat DOA when it comes to the punk stuff, I guess. Like early DOA is just unbelievable. But like I absolutely, there's such a unique band. I absolutely love Personality Crisis.
Man, I was thinking, is he going to say Personality Crisis? Because it's my favourite too.
Oh, that's great. Because there's a few of us. I think there's a few people out there that really champion this band. If you get this band, they mean the world to you.
I think a lot of people say they don't like the vocals. It's like, but I think they just fit perfectly with the music.
I got these on. Yeah, his voice is something else. You know,
it's one of a kind. It's like,
But do you know what really does it for me? It's the two guitarists, and it's the whole band. They're incredible. It's like they've got like rock chops. But they don't use it like it's never used in a terrible way. It's just like, oh my God, that the way they transition from one riff to another or something. Yeah, it's just like really clever without being obnoxious. You know what I mean?
You know what? I talked about this the other day, but I used to trade tapes with Johnny, who was from Peaceville, from your neck of the woods.
Really, yeah.
And he would send me all these tapes, and that was one of the ones that he just put on a C60. And that was one of the ones, as soon as you put it in, you're like, oh, this is like special. And I only had that tape of it for years. And I've got just the reissue now, because is it Schizophrenic Records from Canada?
Oh,
they reissued the LP, but that's an original, right?
Yeah, but I can go one better, actually. I think that's the British release. That's the British release.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, John Esplin, who's a great guy, who's been doing punk records since the 80s, and he used to fly to America and bring suitcases full of hardcore records back.
Wow.
I think I remember talking to I remember being at a record fair in Middlesbrough, and Lecky turned up with like 50 quid, and he walked away with like with the SOA EP and Gangrene, like 3 singles for 50 quid.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, and it was from John, and John was like, he put the Dickies Locked and Loaded album out, you know, when the Dickies toured in the 90s. Okay. And he did Overground Records. And he
Overground. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Wow.
But you've just reminded me of those tapes there, because I've actually I found a few that were in the shop that I meant to do something. And this is kind of, it's this, I think it's called Play Loud or Don't Effing Bother. And it's just, I think I got this in like 1985. Yeah, and there it is. Personality Crisis, Scavengers, Twilight's Last Gleaming.
Oh, wow.
This tape, I'm trying to think if it was done by, it's D.S. Wilshire, you know, from Cambridge. He used to do Endless Struggle fanzine. Oh, man.
The name rings a bell. Yeah, yeah.
He's a lovely guy. And he used to sell these tape compilations for £1 or something. You'd sent off
He'd always get his list in the letter or a tape trade or
I think he famously put out this, which was the Descendants kind of Hey cassette. That was him as well.
Wow.
Which has got him. It's kind of got him interviewing the Descendants, saying how they'd love to come to England and stuff. Jeez. And wow. It's just like little. These are fantastic, you know. Sort of keep them.
Wow.
And he would, and this tape is just outrageously good. There's so much good stuff on it, like 7 Seconds and Ill Repute. Just good, great stuff. But the Personality Crisis tracks on that tape just made me a fan for life. You know what I mean?
I've long said to people that that's my favorite, Canadian LP of all time, and you kind of get a bit of a, but I stand by it to this day. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there it is. There's the real one, because this came into Vinyl Tap. This is the highlight of my career at Vinyl Tap. When this came in, and I said to Tony, the guy who runs it, I said, Tony, I really have to have this record. And he went, well, just give us what you think. I said, well,
what did you think?
30 quid be all right? And he went, yeah, that's fine. So
that looks really minty, though. Chris,
I think it had shrink on it. I think it was just hanging too loose. It had to come off. But it's just it's a really nice copy. It's got the insert and stuff, which is just really nice. Yeah.
Mitch Funk was the name of the singer, right? Mitch Funk. Yeah. Apparently, he was a really tall bloke, very intimidating.
Yeah, he's kind of like very, very unique looking guy. Sort of. There's some live footage on YouTube, isn't there? I think. It's kind of like the audio might not be the best, but it's just amazing that this stuff exists. I
love those like rock, as you said, the guitar like solos, just those little kind of like, they're very short, very tasteful.
Yeah. The drummer is pretty amazing as well.
Amazing. And I like the fact they kind of have like one fast song, then a mid-pace song, then a fast song, then a mid-pace song, and then.
I'll tell you what you might not know about one of those guitarists as well, because being the super nerd that I was about them. I think, is it Richard DeGarry? He's one of the guitar players. I'm going to guess he's the flashy player,
right?
Because he ended up as a touring guitarist with Guns N' Roses.
Did not know that. I still think it's not going to tarnish my opinion of that record.
I don't know if that's a little thing. Well, listen, if it's good enough for Duff McKagan, then you know what I mean.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. Shows what a good guitar player was, good guitarist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're phenomenal guitar players, and I do that band Jaded Eyes with them. I digress and plug my own band, but I shouldn't do it.
I meant to ask.
But on our last record, I blatantly lifted a riff from Personality Crisis. So it's more the feel of it as opposed to the actual chords, if you like.
Jaded Eyes.
It's more the other guys in the band didn't know, but I did, so it's all right.
Well, they know now. Yeah. All right. What else you got, Chris? That was good.
Okay. Here's another little. He's an unheralded sort of record.
All right.
I think Fart Blossom Records was kind of the home of. I'm trying to think. It was on Fart Blossom. Was it Pissed Happy Children?
Maybe. And wasn't that band that Dave Grohl was in? Brain Drain.
Yeah. Dane Ramage, is it? Yeah. I've never heard that. Have you heard that record?
I had a little tape of it, but it's just very kind of middle of the road melodic. Nothing special. Yeah.
I figured it might be sort of. It's got that 986 feel, if you know what I mean, in the sense that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit directionless. It's kind of
It's neither here nor there.
Not being too hard on it, but this is kind of I absolutely this Subculture album, which is just phenomenal. It's kind of like De Kreutzen or something. It's kind of like nasty, and the singer's exceptional, and again the musicianship's good. It's a bit Corrosion of Conformity meets sort of De Kreutzen or something. I think it's a great record, and I used to see this in secondhand bins and go past it because I thought this looked terrible.
I quite like it.
And it does. It's not. I love it now. I love the bold colours and everything. It's kind of but it seemed like it might be like sort of like the Ryman's Premier League of sort of hardcore,
or like not very good crossover, maybe. Kind of looks a bit like a bad crossover album from that era.
Like I said, I was slightly allergic to metal at that point, so I might have gone past it. Right. Yeah. But yeah, this is a killer album. And funnily enough, the next record, the singer, who was probably kind of in his, I'm going to say in his late 30s, early 40s, really? Came back with this band. And they're from the same, I forget where these guys are from, actually. It should say on the bottom. North Carolina.
Chris, is that album called I Heard a Scream? Am I right?
It is, yeah.
I've never owned it, but I've had it on tape and.
Man, I think if you see, it's one you can pick up for like pretty cheap as well,
Well, maybe that's the funny thing. Maybe I've never seen it in Japan, never. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
You get that sometimes. Things that don't show up in Japan. I don't think anybody really knew about them.
We have this impression that everything shows up in Japan, but
no, not necessarily. There's tons of things that I've never seen stuff like that,
Although your guide through the sale bins in which shop was it?
But one of the punk shops.
I guess one of the big shops was doing a sale of their hardcore recently.
Disunion. They're doing another one now, a Japanese hardcore one. It's unbelievable.
Oh wow!
But a lot of that stuff from the first sale is still in there. About 1/5 of it is still in there.
Yeah, things seem to be, there's a lot of fantasists and dreamers selling stuff on Discogs and just downright greedy sods. Yeah. But those Japanese, that's why I like bricks and mortar shops, because we kind of, it's real experience at the end of the day.
I mean, so I'm not a big fan of Discogs or that kind of shopping, and that's one of the reasons why I want to do this, to sort of remind people that support your record shops, because
that's so cool, Mike. It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's I'm doing okay. So as long as I'm all right, I'll stay here. That's the way it is. And it's just it's great when someone buys a record off you and they've been looking for it for such a long time. It's great.
I almost never buy anything from Discogs. I mean, I'm a bit spoiled. There are a lot of good record shops in Japan, so but every town in England, there's a record shop near you, so check out the record shops.
Yeah. And there's a lot of new ones as well, and some of them are great. A lot, they're not all just doing new stock or stuff. Right. There's a lot of people have just kind of, there's just some new blood in that scene, if you like, because it's kind of, when I do record fairs, it's kind of a lot of fellas, so in their 60s and 70s doing stalls, and they're real characters. Some of them are like the loveliest people you'll meet, but you're kind of thinking, where's the new guys? Where's the new people doing this?
Right, yeah.
And a few of them have appeared, which is great.
Good.
Anyway, I perhaps digressed there.
That's Subculture. Another one to go on the list. Yeah.
You might. I don't know if you know these guys. Double Negative.
I do. A lot of people were talking about that record when it came out, and I didn't get one. Yeah.
This sounds like a record from 1984. You know what I mean? I'm very fussy with bands doing old-fashioned hardcore in the modern age, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Bands that say, we sound, and the description always says, they sound like, Die Kreuzen or, like I say, Corrosion Conformity or something. But this record could have come out on Bon Air or Fart Blossom in exactly that era.
Right.
It's just great. Well, this band's great. I've got another 12-inch by these guys. I can't think what it's called. But it's fantastic. So, I really rate them. And these are a band you can pick up these records for really cheap. I'm sure there's enough copies knocking around.
Never seen one in Japan.
Maybe they're in the cheap bin.
There's just certain things that there's certain things that just don't show up here. I definitely missed the boat on that record, though, when it came out, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, slept on that one.
Yeah, you'll find it though. I bet it'll turn up somewhere.
I'll be looking for it now properly.
When you least expect it, there's Agent Origin.
All right.
Right. I'm going to throw a bit of metal at you now because I
don't put me on the spot if I don't know what it is. Don't punish.
Well, this you'll be on safe ground here. You can tell me a bit because these are two I have for sale in the store actually, just because I think I have a set of theirs apart from one at home. But I really like this band, and it's Coroner.
Switzerland.
So, were they?
Yeah.
Celtic Frost roadies or something. I've got a couple here in the store. There we go. So
I've got the bottom one. I don't have the top one. They're both great. I have a kind of a story about that because they did a demo tape, and Tom G. Warrior from Celtic Frost sings on it. It's only on tape.
Okay. Oh wow.
And I don't know how, I don't remember how, but I kind of got an original of that, and I used to dub it onto cassette tapes, and I used to sell them at gigs, and buy cider. And buy cider at the bar with it.
I'd have bought them off you though, being 16 or so, and you being like 8.
There at home, me and my friend Tim, just sit there with one of the old tape to tape, and just dub them, and sell them for hardly any money. We just make a little bit of like a 10 pence or whatever profit. But people, I was like, do you know this band? It's like Tom G. Warrior, Celtic Frost, and I remember like I sold an Amoebix gig. I sold a lot, and I got very drunk that night. So that's my coroner story. But great band, bit technical. I wouldn't call them. They're not really death metal. I don't know really what you call them. Progressive, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think so. I think they're progressive in that Voivod sort of way, maybe, but not quite as hard as that.
Yeah,
and I've always liked Voivod. I remember in Voivod when I was about 15, and
my
mate Ash, I was in my first band with him, and he was kind of like obsessed with Motorhead.
Right.
But he was also, him and our drummer's brother were like, our drummer's brother was like number 4 in the Venom fan club or something.
Really?
He's got, and he interviewed Kronos, and so he used to go up to Newcastle to see, not them play live, to actually hang out with them and stuff. But Ash was kind of like, I remember he got the Voivod album, he said, and it got the worst review ever in Kerrang or something.
It did.
And Ash was kind of getting into punk. But that would have made him buy it straight away, that terrible review, because just saying it's like unlistenable,
You kind of learn to you kind of learn to read between the lines with those kind of reviews. You're like, this is definitely good. If Kerrang says it's really noisy and unlistenable, then probably it's going to be good. Yeah.
Well, I kind of find the British music press from that era kind of interesting because you're I think you're a couple of years older than me, are you, Mike? Or
53, yeah.
And so you'd have read, maybe if you kind of weren't really, before you really got into the scene and buying fanzines, you'd read sort of Sounds or something.
Well, Sounds was the one I liked the most. I think.
Yeah, me too.
It was just better.
Yeah.
Better coverage, more honest, if you can say that. And then of course they did Kerrang as well, right?
So.
Kerrang was originally just a Sounds column, and then they launched the magazine.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
But definitely, I used to go to W.H. Smith on whatever day it came out, and they'd have and I just stand there and just read them all.
Yeah.
But you'd find out about gigs and stuff, and you'd see the gigs advertised in there, and you'd like take a mental note. And
that's the most important thing about those weeklies with the gig listings, because I'll tell you what. By the time I was 15, 16, Middlesbrough, Teesside it had the Rock Garden, and all the big punk bands played there, right up to, like Crass and everyone played there. And, when I just came of age to go to gigs, that place shut down.
Oh.
So it was a bit of a wasteland until you found that little pub that put punk gigs on, that occasionally would put gigs on. There was nothing. There was no major gigs, really. There was no venues big enough. And so it was off the touring, so you'd read this little thing. I'd just go through the whole listing Sounds just to see one gig in Middlesbrough.
Same. I remember actually finding out about a gig. It was in Ipswich, but it was Extreme Noise Terror and Doom and Carcass, and I hitchhiked there.
Yeah,
just from reading it in like a little thing in Sounds, like crazy.
I slept in a bus station, you know what I mean? I've been so drunk that you kind of like pass out in a bus station,
Yes.
I've never eaten dog food out of a tin, or anything like that.
Who are you talking about?
I've got a mate. My mate was saying he was at his first gig he went to was, I think it was Disorder or Chaos UK.
Oh God, no!
He went into the toilets on the way in, and he was about 15. And he said he saw 2 punks sharing a tin of dog food.
Oh man! But just thinking about that, Chris, it's amazing that there was like all those publications weekly, at the same time. Unbelievable. As well as all this Maximum Rock and Roll and all the bigger fanzines as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, discovering the American stuff was accident more than design. It was that stuff was, even now you meet a lot of old. Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Something You meet a lot of older British punks, and they've never even heard of the American bands. You know, they know the Dead Kennedys, they know the Dickies. That's about it. You know what I mean?
I was really fascinated by all the American, like the melodic stuff, like Government Issue and Scream and Naked Reagan. They're still some of the best gigs I've ever seen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something about those bands.
Yeah, I think once you discovered the American stuff, you were kind of and you liked it. You were like hooked. You know what I mean? That was kind of, you know, and worldwide stuff actually. You know, I mean, I love. You know, you're in the land of some of the greatest hardcore music ever made. Really, you know, which is just, I love all that Selfish and Burning Spirits stuff. It's just amazing.
I was talking about the other day. I was really just going on two roads. I had like the melodic American stuff and then all the like Japanese stuff, and I was doing both. I love both equally, you know, at the same time.
Yeah.
I still do, really, you know, but
Yeah. I'm the same. It's kind of I think you try and find there's a bunch of genres now, and I'm really open-minded more than I ever have been, and you just want to hear the best stuff from every genre, if you like, and just
it's one of the good things about getting old. You don't care, just like you're not being judged,
absolutely.
You can like anything, like jazz, anything, you know.
Yeah, I've started collecting sort of reggae records now. You know, more the roots stuff. I just love it, absolutely love it. You know, but it doesn't mean that the punk stuff's going to go. It's just another addition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it can be tough on the wallet, but I think it's good to be a bit more open-minded. Any more metal for me, Chris? Or?
Well, yeah, a bit more. I'll just show you this. This came in the store the other day. This is quite nice. It's a slightly later one. It's a Creator album.
Coma of Souls. I've got it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of nice. It's kind of fully signed by the band. I know you kind of get signed stuff, but that's kind of nice, you know what I mean? Some people don't like signed stuff, but I thought that was pretty cool, you know?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. That's like, I don't know if it gets overlooked, but Pleasure to Kill is one of the ones that people talk about, but that's one of my favorite creative. That's kind of on the cusp of before they kind of like went downhill a bit. It's a great record.
I will play it because it's I like Pleasure to Kill, and I remember hearing, funny enough, you talking about those sounds things. I think that's the first time I created was one of those sound 7 inches.
I've just remembered a Creator and Leeds connection. Fucking Christmas on Earth. Christmas on Earth. I forget the whole, but it was Voivod, who they couldn't get in the country.
Yes,
Megadeth, Cro-Mags, Creator, Virus from England, and
I saw Virus a couple of times.
Well, let's not talk about it. But just funny, Creator and Leeds. There you go. And I met Johnny from Peaceful there. I met him for the first time in person.
Oh, is that right?
After we'd been trading tapes for about a year, I sort of met him.
Yeah.
He was really quiet, shy. He hardly said a word. Yeah, he didn't drink as well. Me and my friend wanted to, and he just like didn't drink, and he was really cool. Lovely bloke, but wasn't what I was expecting. It's like,
it's not what you expect, really, is it? I think you sort of like expect sort of some sort of punk warrior that's kind of like really active.
Because he'd always write really sort of wordy letters, and then when I met him, because I was quite shy as well, so it was a bit awkward, you know.
Yeah. Well, that the Christmas on Earth gig, which I didn't go to, as I you know, I probably had to been 16, but like, I don't remember hearing about it. I think it would have just, even if I'd been able to sort of get to it, I think it looked too metal for me, like I say. But I kind of was just probably becoming aware of the Cro-Mags then.
Right.
And famously, there's footage of John Joseph takes a header off the stage and he does a full flip. Now, the other guitarist in Jaded Eyes, the band I do, Dale, was at that gig, and he had turned his back to talk to his friend.
Ooh.
And John Joseph landed on him and knocked him unconscious.
Was that at Christmas on Earth?
That was at Christmas on Earth, yeah.
Wow. I remember Danny Leica from Nuclear Assault did like this huge stage dive, and he just like went straight over him.
Right. I mean, it could be that, but there's one. I'm sure it's John Joseph because he goes in feet first as well. So, and I think Dale was just turned around to talk to his mate, and wham, and he had a bit of like a crook neck for about 6 months, and I think he missed about 4 bands that day because he was just like dazed or something. That's kind of really, nobody died. It's just a little story, but don't mind embarrassing my friends there. Or it's not embarrassing. It's actually it's a good war story.
That gig had a lot of criticism. Apparently, it wasn't very well promoted, and the turnout was a lot less than they were expecting, and it was considered a failure at the time.
But yeah, I think it was at the Queen's Hall.
Time, people look back on it now with a bit sort of rose-tinted spectacles, but at the time, it was considered a bit of a failure. Yeah.
I mean, that building's been pulled down, I think, but it was a huge venue as far as I know.
Right.
And because they'd had Christmas on Earth, they had a punk one, hadn't they? In like 1981.
Played it. Black Flag played it.
Yes. Yeah. I seem to remember seeing the poster for that. Yeah. And that band Llama played, who I really like. There's an old Finnish punk band called Llama.
Did they play at that same one?
They're on the flyer. I'm sure they are. That would have been so. I'd be more excited. I'd be almost.
You're going to say you're more excited about Llama than Black Flag, right?
I'd be equally excited with hindsight. Yeah, I think Black Flag would have been mind blowing at that era, of course. But I love Llama as well. So anyway,
Yeah. Amazing.
Right. Do you want a couple more? Or
go on then. Come on. Come on.
These came in the other day. Do you know this band, Suffocation?
I do.
Do you know anything about them?
Yeah, they're a death metal. They're one of the. They're from New York. They're a death metal band. The one you have in front of me is kind of a classic. The one behind it is that one. That one. That one might be a. See, you put me on the spot. That might be a later one. Is that an LP or a 12-inch? It's an LP, right? The one with.
Yeah, they're both LPs. And,
okay. The other one is a kind of a classic. One of their earlier records, but they're considered one of the sort of pioneers of like New York death metal. Really good.
Yeah, you're right. That's 91 and that's 93. So I think that. But yeah, I kind of like. I don't really know about them at all. I played it the other day, and it's pretty good actually. It's kind of got the vocals are very sort of obituary or something.
Yeah, it's that kind of same ballpark. They're very brutal. I think they're sort of considered to be a sort of purveyors of a certain style of like death metal, back in the day. And they had a little bit of I think they're a bit of a hardcore. They had a bit of a hardcore connection too.
Right, I wonder if
I don't really know too much about them, but I've got the earlier record, but not that's an original, right?
Yeah. They kind of. I think I bought this. I did this. It was like a house clearance recently, and like a lot of records. It was like about 1,000 albums of this like biker guy, and he kind of acquired them. He didn't really know what they were. I gave him like a good price for them, like a couple of thousand at least, And he kind of. But some of them had to go straight in the bin. They were so in such poor condition. It was a real shame.
Oh, that's a shame.
Whole run of it's funny I mentioned Chaos UK before. There was a whole run of like Short Sharp Shock and the singles and the Ear Slaughter the split with, and they were the sleeves were so far gone. It was such a shame. They were like stuck to each other. It's a real shame when you find them like that. But a lot of the metal stuff was in decent condition, so that kind of. But I'm going to have fun going through them and listening to them because there's a lot of stuff I've never even seen before.
Yeah, let me know what you come up with, what you find.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I do these cheaper as well because they can, you have to price things on condition. Of course you do, you know what I mean? So, they're not super expensive, but it's just you don't come across these records, of course, You
don't? I mean, I've got a repress, but good band, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Right, I'm going to go a bit gothic on you.
Oh, go on then.
But it's American goth, and this is a band I really like, especially like this first album. It's. I've only ever seen another copy of this, and it was in similarly like VG condition, if you like. The sleeve, especially the sleeve, seems kind of vulnerable. It's kind of got a 3D. The logo you can't really read it, so if I hold it up, it's Community FK. I don't know if you know this band.
First time.
Yeah, they were on that Hell. Do you know that Hell Comes to Your House?
I do know that. Were they on? They were on that, were they? Yeah.
They're on that. Yeah. And they're kind of like American Gothic, more in the Bauhaus sort of way. Maybe.
Cool.
This record sounds like UK DK. I don't know if you remember them.
I do. I like that band a lot, actually. A lot of people I'm not too keen, but I'm a big fan. They have one of their records actually has a Japanese pressing, UK Decade. I think they're
really?
quite well regarded in Japan. So on a major label as well, major label too.
Oh really? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's that almost I don't think of goth until sort of like the Sisters of Mercy start, really. I think all those bands before then are something else, and that's what this is. It's kind of it's quite Joy Division, but there are 3 like fast punk songs on that album.
Wow.
And they're really good. There's a couple, and then there's like a dirges almost, like and they're fantastic. They're really atmospheric. Wow. And then they're a bit niche. I think people into punk rock and stuff might not like them so much, but like But then they did this one.
All right.
Which is the second one, which is called Close One Sad Eye.
That was that. Actually, that looks familiar, but I that's something that if you saw that, you'd be like, oh, what's this? It's kind of quite an intriguing.
Yeah, it's got like lovely sort of like silver sort of embossed sleeve.
Right.
This is a bit trashed. I got this in like for £2 or something in a cheap bin, which is a nice find. But it's the second album, and they're kind of pretty cool looking. They've got like a sort of Betty Page sort of female bass player, guitar player, I should say. She looks super cool, and super nice. And they got a kind of Pete Murphy guy, Bowsy sort of looking guy.
Yeah.
And but this has a song on here called "Something Inside Me Has Died," which is just an amazing song. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's a bit like what I don't know. For American Gothic stuff, it's like it's got to be like one of the anthems for that. But again, they're a band that are not widely known outside of probably their own sort of very small fan base, I guess, in relative terms.
Yeah.
But I think they played with a lot of the early punk bands. They'd have played with like Social Distortion and stuff, and
right.
So they were part of that. Christian Death, of course, early doors.
I was going to mention them. Yeah,
that's kind of similar, Yeah.
Wow.
When they had a bit more punk in them, and they weren't just
First couple of albums. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Yeah, fantastic. Right, I bought my big hitter. This is my big hitter.
All right, maybe let's finish off with this one, and then let's finish on a high note. The big hitter.
Okay. This is the most expensive record I've ever bought. So
you ever bought? Okay.
And this is kind of it's the Mental Abuse Streets of Filth album, which is just, I've been after this for like 25 years. Well, that's a lie. I saw it. I first heard about it 25 years ago. And I saw it on a list for 100 Deutschmarks.
Wow.
Which would have been £35 back then.
Right.
So I had to pay, probably about 8 to 10 times more than that to finally land one. Wow. Now, if you live in the States and you live in that area where they do turn up apparently, but that's always the thing with geography, isn't it? It's like if you live somewhere,
there's going to be copies. Chris, tell me a bit more about that record if you can.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I think these guys were sort of the singer Sid Sludge. Ironically, I think they used to have like one of these tapes used to get in the 80s. There was like a radio clip of someone playing the Misfits.
Right.
And I'm sure the guy said he was Sid Sludge, and it always stuck in my mind. So maybe he did like a sort of a college radio thing, for like 2 weeks or something. I don't know. But they're kind of from New Jersey.
Okay.
Which in itself has that kind of sort of New York sort of poorer cousin sort of thing. I don't know. I don't want to be sort of like too down on New Jersey. I've never been there, but it's kind of got that sort of, again, it's that blue collar, it's that sort of the poorer areas sort of thing.
Yeah.
And these guys, like the whole thing with this Streets of Filth and like the porno theatre. Yeah. And I'm just hanging around. And there's a couple of notoriously like sort of un-PC songs on this record. Right. Soft Woman being one of them. And they're just kind of, when it became a thing, didn't it, to coin that phrase outside of hardcore about 10 years ago.
Yes.
Now, someone I know said, well, come on, all punk bands, all these hardcore bands are kind of outsiders in a way. I get that. Yeah. But I think some guys were outside the outside, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But I think these guys got some good shows. They're on flyers in New York in that time. But it's just one of those records, though, that kind of its reputation grew and it became incredibly hard to find. Right. It seemed to be anyway. And yeah, I thought I needed to stop thinking about owning it. You know, I needed to get it out of my brain, so I didn't think about it. And like I said, there's not too many LPs of 12 inches from the USA or North America, I should say. That
right.
There's plenty from Japan, of course, but that I don't. I at least haven't owned, I suppose, and maybe sold on, and a couple of regret. But this one's, it's a good record. I mean, they played with Agnostic Front a lot. I think one of them was in an early lineup for Agnostic Front or something like that. Wow. Yeah, the drummer, I think. And they got back together a few years ago. They were playing again.
Cool.
But this Urinal Records put out a couple of compilations. They're on those, but they're much easier to find. This is the one that is tough to find. And again, it's always ring worn. It's tough to find.
Right.
But yeah, along with these guys and that Mother Records, which was the New Jersey label that put out all the stuff. Yeah. You know, like Fatal Rage and stuff like that, which is great. Which is probably the second most expensive record. So yeah, this is a real treasure for me.
Excellent.
I'm always getting people saying, "Are you selling it? Are you selling it?" You know. I've just bought it. I'm not selling it.
Oh, thanks for coming on, Chris. You've shown me some amazing records, and it was lovely to talk to you.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Jog a memory about the Duchess of York and other stuff as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was lovely to hear what your memories of reading sort of like the dailies and the weeklies and stuff. It's exactly the
same. We were probably doing the same sort of thing, but yeah. So thanks for coming on. I'll say it again: support your record shops while they're still here. They're important.
Thank you, Mike. Absolutely brilliant.
All right, we're going to sign off. Until next time, stay healthy and stay clean.